Alright guys, welcome back. So we're continuing along with the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Neca, and we're taking a look at Raphael. Definitely one of my more favorite depictions of Raph from any TMNT media we've had. I do like how they balance the always angry with the humor in this. So very excited to take a look at the figure and see how well they did in terms of matching him to the CGI model. So without further ado, let's crack this package open and see what we get inside. Taking a quick look at the packaging, we see more of that very cool comic style artwork on the front there. Not sure where they get these images from, if this was just drawn for these packages or if they were like from some comic or something. But much the same, Raphael number 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We get the same exact alleyway scene and bio on the back there. On the side, you see more of that comic book uh, illustration going on there, where if you join Leo's box to it, it completes a little bit more of the picture. So we'll take a look at all the boxes as we go along. At the bottom there, you have all the legal info. There's a flap, much like Leo's box. Really not sure where they pulled these artwork pieces from, but they do look quite cool. The glare bothering you. But they do look pretty decent, and you can see Raphael looking pretty cool inside there. I see one of the tie straps came out, which will be of great assistance to me taking this out. But without further ado, let's get him out of here. So now that we have Raph out the package, I just wanted to address this skin tone color before I have to keep mentioning it 100 times throughout this review. Definitely is the wrong color. I'm not sure what they're basing this off of. Maybe they're basing it off of the old Playmates toys or something. But the color is definitely off. It does not match the CGI model at all, which is a bit of a disappointment for me, I think. And as a matter of fact, even the box he came in has the more accurate color on this artwork here. So not sure why they chose to go with this color, but maybe it was a Nickelodeon decision or something. But despite the skin tone color, uh, they did a really good job sculpting. The face looks spot on. I think they could have done a little bit better on the eyes, because one does look high and one does look a little lower. So it does give him a kind of wonky eyed look. I like how they did his bandanas with the little tattered edges and stuff. And it does rotate like Leo's. The most distinguishing feature of this Raph is the fact that when he was smaller, he cracked the front and back shell. So you can see that crack going all through there. Looks really good. And actually, in researching photos to compare the skin tones, I did notice that a lot of these nicks are actually very screen accurate to how he appears in the show. So that is pretty cool. Much like Leo, they did the similar leather texture on the belt, which is really nice. And another good thing about Raph versus Leo is the fact that his arms does not have that thin bicep like Leo does. So his own is much more sturdier. So you can actually raise his shoulder no problem like that. Getting down to Raph's pads there, you can see the similar leather texture going on there. His wraps on his wrist are actually leather this time, so that's pretty cool. And he does have the tape wrapped on his fingers there. And much like with Leo, they did the darker speckles, but they didn't do the lighter colored ones, which is a bit unfortunate. Something I wanted to show off, and I think maybe I didn't explain it too well in Leo's review, is the fact that this shell and the sides and the front shell are glued together, and this torso piece moves around freely on the inside here. So If I heat this up, I could actually pop the torso with the whole arms and everything out of here, and it'll just be like a shell with 2 feet. And that's where the articulation comes from. So I was saying that this might have been the first time Neca did that. But I think we have seen this on the Mezco versions, if I'm not mistaken. Or something similar, where the torso could articulate inside the shell. Something I failed to mention on Leo's review, and mainly because it was blocked by those katana sheets, was the fact that they did quite a lot of highlights on the edges of the shell and on certain parts, so it does make it pop a little bit more. Does look really nice. You can see that swirly pattern in the turtle shell there. And of course it's Raph's shell, so nicks and scratches galore. And very happy to see that they actually did some loops, so you could actually have some storage for the size on the back there, which is always welcome. Getting down to the legs, you can see much more of that same incorrect green, and also lack of additional colored speckles on the skin there. And you can see his knee pads are extremely scuffed. And then getting down to the wraps on his feet, his own is leather as well. It goes all the way underneath. Really, really nicely done. And his ankles actually have a lot better range than Leo's for some reason. But yeah, despite being the incorrect color, I do still like this Raph quite a lot because he does invoke the Raph from the show. Maybe one day when I'm brave enough, I'll try to do an accurate paint job on him. But maybe I'll wait until I get an airbrush or something. So getting right into Raph's articulation. His head doesn't have as much range up as Leo's does because his neck is actually thicker. But he can, let me hold that torso in place. He can look up about this far and he can look down about that far. But of course he does have the torso joint, so if you wanted to get him to look down or up further, you can. So it's good that that's there. His head obviously can swivel, but he doesn't have that much tilt. He has a little bit though. His shoulders go up about this far. As mentioned, he doesn't have the gummy biceps like Leo does. So that's a very good thing. The arms can rotate. He does have a bicep swivel. And his elbows are double jointed, getting you about this much range, which is not too bad. His arms do have a swivel and hinge. Very, very stiff now. As mentioned about the torso, he can move around inside that shell there. So you can get some crunch forward and some tilt back, though not very much. And he can't tilt as much as Leo could, but he can tilt a little bit from side to side. He does kick forward about this high, kicks back about that far. Can do an almost perfect split, which is not too bad. He does have a thigh swivel. Does have double jointed knees, which get you pretty good range. His ankles can kick forward about that far, kicks back about that far, and he does have the rocker, of course. So another decently articulated one. He has a slightly little bit less range than Leo, I think, but that's because he's a little bit more thicker and squat. So some of his range is a little bit lesser. Getting right into Raph's accessories, he does come default in package with the 2 gripping hands. And then he does come with 2 open gesture hands. And lastly, for hands, he does come with 2 fists. Raph does come with 2 size, and if you thought the Lawson ones were thin and scary, wait till I get a load of these ones. The size are painted in a very nice silver, and they do look really, really nice. The detailing on the handle very similar to how Leo's is, but man, these things, you feel like you could sneeze on them and break them, so just be very careful. Raph's size aren't as traumatic as Leo's katana to get in his hand. You simply can slide those from the top straight in, but just be very careful still. It still is a kind of a tight fit. Once you actually get it in the hand, it is quite loose though, but it can't really fall out or go anywhere. You can also get him to hold the size in the cool way by simply putting it over the fingers like this and kind of pressing it in from the middle. Try not to press from the ends. And that's probably about as good as you can get it without stressing the handle or anything. But it does still look pretty nice. He does look really badass holding those sides though. So as mentioned, he does come with two loops on the back of the belt to hold the size. But I would strongly advise getting something like a small screwdriver like this that could kind of fit through those holes and just kind of get them a little slight widen, because you definitely don't want to break those sides. And these loops were very, very tight. And once you do that, you can simply slip them in there. And they go in there, no problem. In addition to the default head sculpt, he does come with an alternate one with the whited out eyes and screaming mouth. And the alternate head sculpt does look really good as well. He comes with the same slice of pizza like Leo did, and it's the exact same sculpt and paint job, but it does look really good, and it does fit nicely into that gripping hand once you slide it from below. He does come with the exact same smoke bomb as Leo came with, and he also does come with his own T-phone. After some experimenting, I did realize you could actually wedge the smoke bomb in the space between the thumb and index finger on the open gesture hand. And you can actually wedge the phone into his gripping hand, but I feel like it's not a good idea to keep that there for too long, because it's going to stretch those fingers out and make the weapons even looser. And those things also work for Leo as well. This one's pretty cool though. He actually comes with a very tiny cockroach Terminator. Well, at least the cockroach with the spy gear and stuff on it before he got turned into the cockroach Terminator. And you can see they did actually good job of painting such a tiny little thing. And you can wedge that roach onto the tips of his fingers there, and it does stay on quite well. So I figure Raph would be the least likeliest person to be holding this roach. And finally, Raph does come with a tiny little figure of Chompy Picasso. And if you watch the show, you'll know this is Toka's little offspring, who Raph sort of adopts. And the details on this thing for being so small is actually really nice. Painted really well. You can even see his little tongue sticking out there. Spikes on the shell. Does look really, really cool. He doesn't come with any specific way to hold Chompy. You can just put him on his shoulder and it does look pretty cool like that. So as I was doing photos and stuff for Raph, something happened, so I decided to point it out. This top shell is actually becoming separated from the side shell. And if you look closely at this, you can actually see that on the side shell there, it almost seems like they painted it first and then glued it on, which was a terrible idea. They should have glued it first and then painted it. So what I'll have to do is probably go in there and sand that off and then glue it back. And it also happened on the other side. And this one is a little bit worse even. And it also happened on the midsection here. So just be careful when posing them around. Just remember that too much force on this thing will cause this to unstick. So be very careful with that. So for height, Raph does come in a little bit shorter than Leo at 5¼ inches tall. He is next to McFarlane Nightfall Batman, Jada Toys Ken, SHF Daima Goku, a Black Series Mando, Marvel Legends Captain America, Neca Raphael, and lastly, Neca 2012 Leo. In closing, I have to say that even though I was disappointed by the skin tone color choice that they made, I still do like the figure quite a lot. His other flaws would be the floppy weapons once you get the weapons in the hand. they kind of flop around in there. But the good thing about it is they can't go anywhere, so that's a plus, I guess. Um, Another thing was the unsticking of the front shell. Uh, they painted the shell and then glued it on, so the paint sort of acted as a layer, and that just peeled away very effortlessly. So very bad decision to paint that and then glue it. The fact that the shell is unsticking means you could crunch forward a little bit more and also kick forward a little bit as well, so that might actually be a plus for some people. And the shell can't exactly fall off because it's joined by the belt there. So despite the flaws, I think he is still quite a nice figure. He looks really good next to Leonardo, so that's always a plus. Nonetheless, hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope this helps anybody who was on the fence about getting this figure. And until next time, you all take care.